colors by the Central High School Red Devil Battalion.
For the NAACP Freedom Fund Banquet. How about 8? Forward, march! March on the color!
Carry! Colors! Ready! Cut! Forward! March! Left! Left! Right! 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 Left! Left turn! March! Left! Left! Right! 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 Left! 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 Right! 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 Left! Colors! Halt! Freeze it! Colors! Carry! Colors! Ready! Cut! Colors! Close! Left! Left! Right! 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 Left! Colors! Halt! Forward! March! Left! Left! Right! 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 Left! Left!
Hello, good evening. My name is Joan Gatewood, and I'm reading from the book of Isaiah, chapter 58. Listen for the word of the Lord. Shout out, do not hold back. Lift up your voice like a trumpet. Announce to my people their rebellion, to the house of Jacob their sins. Yet day after day they seek me and delight to know my ways, as if they were a nation that practiced righteousness and did not forsake the ordinance of their God. They ask of me righteous judgments. They delight to draw near to God. Why do we fast, but you do not see? Why humble ourselves, but you do not notice? Look, you serve your own interest on your fast day and oppress all your workers. Look, you fast only to quarrel and to fight and to strike with a wicked fist. Such fasting as you do today will not make your voice heard on high. Is such the fast that I choose, a day to humble oneself? Is it to bow down the head like a bulrush and to lie in sackcloth and ashes? Will you call this a fast, a day acceptable to the Lord? Is not this the fast that I choose, to loose the bonds of injustice, to undo the thongs of the yoke, to let the oppressed go free, and to break every yoke? Is it not to share your bread with the hungry and bring the homeless poor into your house? When you see the naked, to cover them, and not to hide yourself from your own kin? Then your light shall break forth like the dawn, and your healing shall spring up quickly. Your vindicator shall go before you, and the glory of the Lord your rear guard. Then you shall call, and the Lord will answer. You shall cry for help, and he will say, Here I am. If you remove the yoke from among you, the pointing of the finger, the speaking of evil, if you offer your food to the hungry and satisfy the needs of the afflicted, then your light shall rise in the darkness, and your gloom be like the noonday. The Lord will guide you continually and satisfy your needs in parched places, and make your bones strong. And you shall be like a watered garden, like a spring of water, whose waters never fail. Your ancient ruins shall be rebuilt, and you shall raise up the foundations of many generations. And you shall be called the repairer of the breach, the restorer of streets to live in. If you refrain from trampling the Sabbath, from pursuing your own interests on my holy day, if you call the Sabbath a delight and the holy day of the Lord honorable, if you honor it, not going your own ways, serving your own interests, or pursuing your own affairs, then you shall take delight in the Lord, and I will make you ride upon the heights of the earth. I will feed you with the heritage of your ancestor Jacob, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Amen.
Good evening. I am NAACP Unit 5050 Phoenix City, Russell County's Treasurer and Banquet Chairman, Nikki Eccles. And on behalf of our branch, I would like to welcome you all here. It is with great pleasure to welcome you to the 33rd Annual Freedom Fund Banquet, but our first virtual banquet to keep everyone safe and healthy. Thank you to each and every one of you for being here virtually with us this evening. We are very pleased to be able to welcome those of you that have been with us for a long time now, as well as those of you who are new with NAACP Unit 5050 of Phoenix City, Russell County. Let's reflect. On February 12, 1909, the NAACP was founded by W.E.B. Du Bois, Ida Wells Barnett, Henry Moskowitz, Mary White Ovington, Oswald Garrison Villard, and William English Walding to embark on the fight for the civil rights of Native Americans, Asian Americans, African Americans, and Jewish people. These brave men and women had a vision of equality and a commitment to the fight for civil rights and equality. And still today, with the spirit of righteousness in fighting for equality as a motivation and the Constitution as the tool, the battle for equality is ours as we march on. Our gathering is an opportunity to come together as one voice to say it is time the right thing is done for all. So this evening, let us be that voice. Let us be that example that people from all walks of life can come together and show love and support for each other. We need you as much as you need us, and that is why we are grateful to have you join us. I leave you with the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We must learn to live together as brothers or perish together as fools. Once again, we welcome all and we hope you enjoy your evening.
Good evening, and thank you so very much for coming out to attend such a wonderful event. And thank you so much for allowing me as the mayor of Positively Phoenix City to be able to bring you greeting. But first of all, let me say this. We truly thank the NAACP for continuing to have this Freedom Fund banquet that does so much for our community, which is a community of inclusion that the NAACP portrays also. We thank you all so much for being here, and on behalf of Positively Phoenix City, from our council members, Arthur Day, District 3, Vicky Carter Johnson, District 2, Steve Bailey, District 1, as well as Griff Gordy at large, and also from me, Eddie Lowe, as well as my wife, the mayor of Phoenix City, to bring you greeting to such a wonderful event. Thank you all so very, very much.
And welcome to the NAACP banquet. We'd like to thank all of you for coming. My name is Leroy Davis, Jr., and I am the first vice president of the NAACP here in Phoenix City, Russell County, Alabama, Unit 5050. I'm also the chair of the membership, and my duties tonight is a call to membership. And what I would like to do is talk about right quick all of the things that's going on in our country right now. All of the things that's may cause you to need the NAACP one day. So my call to membership is to call to you to action, to come and join the Phoenix City, Russell County NAACP branch 5050. We fight for your freedoms, we fight for your rights to vote, we fight for your justice. Please come and join us. You'll never know when you might need us. Thank you.
Greetings, greetings, greetings. We want to thank the Russell County NAACP for inviting me to address you on the theme of Black Lives Matter. And I want to just thank all of those who are responsible for this event and for my speaking, and I'm very humbled for the opportunity. And I want to address you from the theme, the 4 elements of community action, the 4 elements of community action, because what we have to do is we have to organize locally, and we organize around power. And so when we talk about organization, what we're talking about is the arrangement of people into positions to where they can best use their gifts and their talents. Organization is intentional. It is not by accident. It is not something that just happens as a result of people coming together in one place and at one time. That's called mobilization. But organization has to do with the arrangement of people for a purpose. And so in order for us to organize, we have to all have the same objective, we have to all understand the plan, and we have to have representatives that can best organize us in the direction that we're supposed to go. So when we talk about these 4 elements, and I refer to them as TACK, T-A-C-K, 4 elements, hopefully you can remember them when it is time to address and engage the community, right? Understand that it is the most difficult aspect of organization in our culture is the family. And it is easier to organize a nation than it is for a family to organize. And so organization starts locally and is focused on local issues. And so one of the things that we cannot do as a group is become too nationally minded that we forget that there are local issues that must be addressed first. We learned that from the analysis of the civil rights movement. And I want you to notice that most of the events that gave rise to the marches, the boycotts, that gave rise to the demonstrations and the mobilization were local issues. In Perry County, Alabama, the death of Jimmy Lee Jackson caused hundreds of people to meet to address his wrongful death. And the original intent was to take his body and march from Selma to Montgomery and leave his body at the steps of the state capitol. However, that opportunity was turned into a march for voting rights, resulting in the passage of the Voting Rights Act, but Jimmy Lee Jackson's death remained unaddressed for many years until not too long ago. That issue was finally addressed, and the person who committed the crime was somewhat held accountable. You've had other instances to where national movements have taken over local ones, and the local movement or the local purpose remained neglected for many years. So it is possible for the local issues that involve mayors, police chiefs, that involve DAs, that involve local officials that could be dealt with at a local level, we find ourselves sucked into a much larger picture that none of us can control and none of us have any kind of say in what goes on. And we need to understand that's by design, okay? So in the post-COVID era, we need to focus on the local issues and put most of our attention, in my opinion, into organizing the community. And there are 4 elements that I want to encourage you with, because these 4 elements must be achieved in order for the community to be organized properly. Number 1, any community activist or any community organizer rather must have the trust of the people, and that trust is earned, that trust is built up. And a lot of times outsiders are better at organizing a community than people inside the community, because the outsider gives an opinion and gives an observation of things that people who are living in the community might not be able to see because they've lived there their entire life. And one of the things that I have observed as a pastor and as a representative and an organizer is, I have the phrase or the statement that if it was in you, it would have showed up by now, which means that sometimes outsiders can come and bring a totally new perspective to a situation. And so the people have to trust that person, and it takes time. It takes time to build up trust with the community. It takes blood, sweat, tears, and you have to be intentional. And so what the people are trusting, and this is very important, because sometimes what we want to be trusted with, or what we want to be acknowledged for, or even appreciated for, might not be what the majority of the people trust us in and identify us as being. So the people, we have to get a clear idea of what people look at us for, what they admire about us, and it might not be what we think it is. Good example. I know of a person who is on the battlefield long as I've been on the earth. This person is an attorney. This person is in a big city and has really tried to do a lot to help people, right? And this person has also become an educator and goes around the country educating people and so forth up north. And one of the things that, a critical error that they made is that they misunderstood what the public, or how the public looked at them or viewed them. And so while he thought that people were following him and people were on his side and people were committing to him because he was an educator or because he was a lawyer, they were actually gravitating toward him because he owned a lot of property. And they wanted to know how he did it. And ladies and gentlemen, that's very important, because you want to know why people are around you. And it's not until you know the real reason of why people are looking to you for hope that you'll be able to give it. And so that means that if you're spending most of your time trying to educate people about Black history or ancient Africa, or you're trying to educate people about the Civil Rights Movement, or educate people about current issues, and they're not responding to you with the enthusiasm that you think, it might be because they are following you or they are focusing on you for another reason. And you have to find out what it is. And that's trust. The people have to trust that what they see in you is what you know it to be. Meaning that if people are looking to you to give them information, and we'll use real estate, on how to purchase property, on how to conduct yourself in a business-like manner, how to negotiate, what's the process like, then your leadership could actually be built off of that and not what you want it to be built off of. And so that's the essence of the type of trust that I'm talking about. The people have to trust that you are what it is that they see in you. Not so much what you want to be seen as, but what is it that you have that other people are gravitating toward, to where they would trust you enough for you to allow them, for them to allow you to organize them in a way that's in their best interest. So TAC, the first letter is trust. Of the acronym is trust. The second letter is acceptance. They'll have to accept you eventually as being one of them. And you know it when they begin to infuse you into their family, into their domestic affairs. You begin to meet members of family. You're invited to weddings. You're invited to funerals. You're invited to graduations. You're invited to christenings. And all of those things are signs of acceptance. And sometimes it takes a while. It takes a while for people to accept you. It takes a while for people to open up doors and allow you to become a part of their culture. And so a great example of the organization or that really knew how to build acceptance was the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. They were college students, and they were, which means they were mostly young people, very energetic, very aggressive, but they were people. And what they did was that they did not just come into a community for a short period of time, but they worked their way in, became infused into the local culture, and became pretty much a part of the family, especially in Lowndes County, to such an extent that a lot of them stayed in Lowndes County. They never left. They came from all over the place and found a place there because they did not look at themselves as being separate from or outside from the people that they were trying to help. And one thing about helping people, and I learned this in the ministry, is that you can't minister to people if you're ashamed of them. And when the shame leaves, when you consider yourself to be a part of them, and they accept you as being a part of them. And so no one is ashamed of his or herself, no one that's sane and healthy. So understanding that acceptance comes when you're actually infused into the culture. Point number 3 is consistency, which means that you have to be consistent in what you say and in what you do. And so a lot of times people, your motive determines your outcome, because people who are in it for the right reason are going to be the most consistent. They're not going to give up. They're going to be very uniform in what they say. They're going to be very direct, and they're not going to be one way in front of one group and one way in front of another group. They're going to be consistent in their speech. They're going to be consistent in their habits, right? They're going to be consistent in their accessibility to people, which means that sometimes when people begin to address a community, or let's say they become a political person, or and we're not talking about being a political person. We're not talking about a politician or anything like that. We're talking about organizing a community. But when people move from that, or they use those efforts as a stepping stone for their own personal benefit, watch what will happen. What will happen is that your accessibility to them will get weaker and weaker, to the point that where people, you used to see them every day, they used to be your friend, you used to have coffee, but now they're so distant that you can't even get a hello in. No text messages returned, none of those invitations that were there. And that is because they became inconsistent. They became inaccessible to what got them where they were. So a political organizer and a community organizer is going to be very consistent in what he or she does. And finally, one of the most important part, once the trust has been built, the acceptance and the consistency, you will have to be considered a primary source of knowledge. TAC, trust, acceptance, consistency, knowledge. What you want, the whole game or the whole part of you getting to where you are, and it is a cat and mouse game sometimes, especially when you're dealing with, people whom you've decided need to be organized against. It will become a game, and that'll be another address. But you will have to be the primary source of knowledge for the people, because what has kept them disorganized, or kept them, what makes the need for reorganization that much more important, is the fact that the people who previously organized them against their best interests, right? So you have to understand that. It is their proximity to knowledge that has put people where they are, right? And black people historically, our battle, especially in the South, has been over knowledge. Those who have it, those who have the correct information, and how that information is changed in order to keep black people responding to situations rather than being able to predict and be proactive in situations. Community organizing should be proactive in nature, which means that the agenda is actually set from the street, not the boardroom. not the council room, not the commissioners' meeting, but the agenda for those meetings is actually created by the street, the community, and it's the community organizer's job to be the primary source of knowledge for the community, which means that that person is going to have to read, that person is going to have to study, that person is going to have to spend their downtime knowing as much as they can about a subject, about a topic, or about a person that they will be able to be correct. And that's where the courage comes in. The courage is in knowing that you're right. And so we don't ever want to not think of ourselves as being in the pursuit of the truth, being in the pursuit of knowledge. So hopefully we will be able in future times to discuss with you some more aspects of community organization. But I want to thank the NAACP there in Russell County for their giving me this opportunity, and I hope this helps you. God bless you.
Good evening. Our guest speaker for this evening is none other than Eunice G. Elliott. Eunice is an author, a comedian, a speaker, a writer, a broadcaster, and a host. Eunice enjoyed a high-profile career in sports and entertainment before helming to her own public relations firm and production company representing professional athletes. She has created and executively produced specialty programming that is aired throughout the Southeast. Eunice has performed as a stand-up comedian for over 10 years. Her humor and big personality landed her at the news desk of a television station where she became the anchor. She recently retired to pursue writing and stand-up comedy full-time. Eunice has written 2 books, both about her 2 dogs in a children's book series. The purpose of the books is to teach young readers about empathy and inclusion. It is a collection of stories and insights that have been passed down to her from her mom. It is used to help inspire almost everyone to be their most authentic self. It is indeed my pleasure and my honor to introduce to you our guest speaker for the Phoenix City, Russell County, Unit 5050 of the NAACP's 2020 Freedom Fund Banquet. Thank you, and please enjoy.
Hello and welcome. I'm welcoming you into my home as you've probably been in your home since the pandemic. I'm in my office, but it used to be a yoga room because I actually do yoga twice a year. Thank you very much. But it has now converted into completely Command Central. And so this is where I do most of my critical thinking and getting it done. So I appreciate the NAACP Phoenix City chapter for allowing me to be a part of your evening. And the theme is about just the stakes are too high. We can't rest now, and we're here. But the question is, what is here? Like, what is our new normal? Like, is it even normal to put on pants anymore? Who needs pants? We've all gotten so conditioned to sitting around at our dining room table, still getting our work done. Our new normal tells us that, okay, we may have gained 15 pounds during quarantine. By the time we're free again, we will have lost that 15 pounds or potentially gained 10 more. Our new normal has us missing friends and family, but our new normal also means that we don't have to suffer through Cheryl's dish at the company potluck. She got all them dogs and cat, and she always wants to bring a wet dish like the coleslaw or potato salad. Cheryl, you are on Hawaiian roll duty from here on out. But we still have so much more to look forward to within the new normal. And then we also are saying goodbye to a lot of the old norms that just were not working for us. Our new normal has seen some of our very own neighbors who screamed their heads off for a team full of black men on Saturday now turn their backs because the white head coach led a social injustice march. I cannot believe they turned on St. Nick. Our new normal has seen people who probably never should become teachers become teachers. And we need to shout out the teachers who are having to get especially creative and have a whole new level of patience during this time. My new normal has allowed me to experience myself in several new ways. I mean, I live alone and I never realized how loudly I breathe. It's a little annoying. I never noticed how much I miss the garbage can when I'm hitting that game-winning buzzer beater. I've always blamed it on the dogs. And my new normal means that I don't have to wake up at 2 a.m. to go do the news and talk about all of the worst things in the world while I have stuffed all of my wonderfulness into a pair of Spanx and glue on eyelashes and wait to get an email from Kim and Coleman about how she doesn't like my hair. That's my new normal. And speaking of my new normal, my hair is different every day. If I were to film this tomorrow, it would be different, but it's my head, okay? But I am sitting here all alone, and you may be sitting there all alone, but we are in this together. My new normal has seen me release 2 books. I have released 2 books since this pandemic started, and I know you didn't know, and I know you haven't bought it, so no worries, but I know. But I'm still here, and so are you. Our current situation is made up of living through a global pandemic, an absolute racial crisis and economic crisis, and just an uncertainty in so many systems. Is this the beginning of our new normal? And when we say normal, what is normal anyway? Because unfortunately for African Americans, normal means that you are probably suffering several and many unfortunate consequences and repercussions just because of the color of your skin. Poor housing, poor education, lack of bank loans for mortgages and businesses, food deserts, lack of proper health care, redlining in our communities and business districts, police brutality, unfair employment practices. You always have to do twice as much work to still not even be paid half, lack of upward mobility within corporations, and of course, just institutionalized bias and systemic racism. It's what this country was built on. It's how the people who are in power were raised. And unfortunately, we were raised right here along with them, but we know better. And they always want to know, why haven't you pulled yourself up by your bootstraps? And we're like, because you keep burning up my boots. But all of these systems right now are being challenged while we are still being challenged within those systems. And we are tired and we are sad and we are not okay. But still, this is not the time for us to stop and get weary. This is not when we can rest. And as bad as it all seems right now, we all know that more than likely, it probably will get worse before it gets better. I remember feeling inspired and encouraged back when Barack Obama first was elected president. I mean, I thought, wow, anybody could be president. And even though she didn't win, obviously, when Hillary Clinton topped the ticket of a major party, I thought, wow, anybody can be president. And then 45 was elected. And I had the same thought, but it was different. It was like, wow, so just anybody can be president? We know that it can get worse before it gets better. But we all have a responsibility to be a part of the change we want to see. We all have to lead the charge. You can't wait on someone else to do it for you. We can't sit back and hope that someone is going to all of a sudden make it better for us. It's on us, all of us, to do the work to make it better. And sadly, we probably won't see the work we do today make a change for our future generations, our children and our grandchildren. And by our, I mean your. I have dogs. But we just are still learning that we're reaping the benefits of the people that came before us. And so that's how it works. We're planting seeds today that will be harvested later. But we have to make a choice to remain vigilant. And even if that means unfriending, unfollowing, just logging off. How many times have you been scrolling on Facebook and this is a coworker, a friend, a neighbor, and you just have to pause, do what I do. Just keep scrolling, roll your eyes, and then cuss them out in private. I mean, it really works for me. But really, we need to know that this is our time. And we have to support each other during this time. And supporting each other doesn't mean that we all agree or that we all think the same thing. That's not true at all. But I do believe that if someone looks like you, Your goal should be to lift them up and build with them. As Issa Rae said, I'm rooting for everybody Black. But we also have to hold ourselves to a standard and accountability, and not where we require perfection from Black folks, but that we meet our standards and exceed them. But why is it we do have that double prayer for Black folks when we see they about to be in charge? I remember when Barack Obama was sworn in. I mean, think about it. From the time he was running for president, for the time he was elected, to the time he was sworn in, and the entire 8 years, we were all just holding our breath. Please don't mess this up, brother Barack. And he didn't. Why is it when the Black pilot comes out from the cockpit to speak to the crew and the passengers, you say that double prayer, Lord, please let this brother know how to fly this plane? And we know he had to be 4 times as good to get that opportunity. And it also means supporting Black businesses. And that means if you are a Black business, don't offer less to people that look like you. We are responsible for building up our communities, even with all the challenges we face. And we have to make ourselves available to young people, even when we think they've stopped listening. A lot of them have, but some of them we just stopped talking to. But they do really, really need us. We have greatness in our DNA. We are the descendants of the strongest people to have ever walked this earth, and yet they act like nothing is expected of us. And sadly, in some cases, they've convinced some of us that that's true. But they also know that if it was ever a fair and equal playing field, well, they're going to be pulling up the rear. Hello, tennis, golf, gymnastics. Keep in mind, those are elite sports. Elite is French for Black folks don't apply. But we can't get distracted by the screams and the hateful rhetoric. And it's heartbreaking when we see it. As I say, never read the comments. I mean, I think we all knew racism was still alive and well in America, but we have seen true colors of people that, again, we called friends and neighbors and colleagues. But we still have to stay focused, and we've got to stay the course. There are just so many distractions out there that by the time we are protesting one injustice, 4 more have happened. And again, we are tired and weary, and still, we can't rest. We have to get creative on how we fight this system that was created to keep us down. I don't know if you've ever seen this movie. It's called The Banker. It stars Samuel L. Jackson and Anthony Mackie. And I don't want to give you the end of the story, but it's the true story of Bernard S. Garrett Sr. and Joe Morris. And these were 2 Black men back in the 50s who were real estate moguls and even owned their own banks. The catch was they used a white man to front the company, so no one knew it was theirs. Again, I don't want to ruin the end, but that comes back to bite them in the butt. And I'm not saying that you need to go find a white person to front your business, but you have to be in the room for the important conversations. We have to form these relationships to keep these meaningful conversations moving forward so that someone will hear something one day. We have to be in those rooms because it means we are actively engaged in our own communities. It means we vote. It means we mentor young people. And that is how we will make a difference. And yes, we are tired, but no, we cannot stop. I recently spoke on a diversity and inclusion panel, and I had to let them know that when you invite this particular Black woman into the room to talk about diversity and inclusion, I'm actually probably more qualified to tell you about white people. Because as African Americans in this country, we have the opportunity to be around so many different kinds of people in order to just be successful. Whereas our counterparts really don't have to know anybody other than themselves to make it. And again, I went to the University of Alabama. So if you really want me to tell you about white people, I can do that. Roll Tide. I mean, some of my best friends are white, but even now they are finally realizing that I've always protected them from a lot of my experience as a Black woman in America. A lot of times I just show up because I just want to have a good time. It's Taco Tuesday. I don't want to tell you about all the hills and mountains I had to climb just to get here. All just because I was born with all of this glorious melanin. No, we're tired of explaining to people that we're human and we deserve basic human rights and the rights of folks who are born in America and whose ancestors built this joint for free. We have to become attached to this idea of an American dream, and it's different for everyone. People who saw me anchoring the morning news felt like I was living the American dream. I mean, I obviously had a job. I was on TV every day, but I was on television for 6 hours a day and never spoke one word that was my original thought or my feelings. And I was just a messenger, and that was a problem because I have a message and I needed more for myself. Of course, I was proud to be able to represent Black folks. I was proud to represent Black women. I was proud to represent Black women from Bessemer, Alabama. I realized some of our neighbors have only seen Black women on reality TV. And we know that ain't quite true. Most of it ain't true. But representation truly, truly matters. And when we talk diversity and inclusion, I get offended because if a woman or a person of color is walking into the room and that fills your quota, that lets me know your standard was a straight white male. So if you're not a straight white male, then oh wow, you're diverse. You've been included. I don't want to accept that. We don't have to accept that. Now we're having these hard conversations, and these are needed conversations we're having right now. And it's going to take a whole lot more than brown Band-Aids and taking Aunt Jemima off the box, because we need real systemic changes that were set up to a system to just keep us down, to keep their knee on our neck. We still have so much more work to do, and we have to get busy. Now, of course, we have an election coming up. I don't know if you've heard about that, but we have the power to make a difference. So we have to make sure our elderly and our young people are registered and make sure they have transportation to the polls. We have to be ready to stand in line in November. Ladies, let's just plan not to get our hair done on November 2nd, just in case it rains. But our voices will be heard, whether they like it or not. I appreciate you allowing me to share my voice with you, my message. That means a lot to me. And I also want to thank you for the work you're doing with the NAACP Phoenix chapter. I appreciate being a small part of your evening. And tonight we recognize and celebrate and just encourage each other. Now, you can find me on social media under my government name, Eunice Elliott. I'm named after my grandma. It's an old lady name, but it's worked out for me because since I do stand-up comedy and motivational speaking, when people try to find Eunice, I'm like one of the last active duty Eunices on Google. So that works in my favor. You can also find me at euniceelliott.com, where you can find my books and also find out more about what I have going on. But again, our time is now. And although we are heartbroken and exhausted, we still cannot rest now. Thank you again. Stay safe and good evening.
As local unit president of Phoenix City, Russell County NAACP's Unit 5050, it gives me great pleasure and honor to stand before you and announce this year's 2020 President's honoree. This young lady was born in Phoenix City, Alabama, and she is the youngest of 3 daughters. She had the opportunity to attend Mother Mary Catholic School and eventually graduated from Hardaway High School in Columbus, Georgia. She later matriculated at Tuskegee and Auburn Universities. She's currently employed at TSYS Global Payments and has been for the past 24 years. This recipient has stepped up on so many different occasions. When the storms hit Beauregard and Lee County, this pastor stepped in to not only open her doors, hold vigils, gather items, resources, make contacts for the people that were hurting so badly during that time. She also stepped in to pray, offer warm hugs, and hearty meals. Her church congregation at Salem Chapel AME Church proudly stood behind and helped her to meet the needs of the community. This leader has stepped up not only as the local chairman of women in the NAACP for Phoenix City, Russell County's Unit 5050. In 2020, she stepped up to become the state conference chairperson of women in the NAACP. As the leadership here at Unit 5050 was growing and making changes, there became a need to step up and assist our secretary. This honoree immediately stepped in to fill that void. As time went on, she became the unit's secretary and works diligently to keep all of our 120 plus members informed and engaged. It is my honor and my pleasure as the president of Local Unit 5050 to recognize, honor, and celebrate the 2020 Freedom Fund Banquet honoree for the President's Award, none other than Reverend Kendra Walker Jacobs. Kendra, again, is the daughter of Will and the late Rose Walker. She has 2 sons, and her sons are Corey and Kevin, and again, Amari is the apple of her eye. We appreciate her family, her friends, her congregation, as well as any others that loan her to us so that she can continue to be a servant leader within our community. I hope that you can join me in recognizing Kendra as an outstanding recipient of this year's Presidential Award. Thank you, Kendra. We love you, and we honestly appreciate everything that you do. Thank you.
Good evening. The next award will be given by Women in NAACP. You will most often hear us say the WIN Committee. This organization or committee is actually falling up under the NAACP and is comprised of both men and women. The 2020 recipient of our award is the Reverend J.C. Fryer. Reverend J.C. Fryer is an honored and esteemed senior pastor of the Pine Hill Missionary Baptist Church. He was born on September 11th to Reverend Jimmy and Sister Cornelia Fryer of Louisville, Alabama. His initial sermon was preached on May 3rd, 1987 at Mount Nebo Baptist Church in Clayton, Alabama. After graduating with honors from Louisville High School, he matriculated at State University. He received his Bachelor of Science degree in May 1991 in mathematics with emphasis on computer science and business administration. Fryer enlisted into the United States Army Reserve and was honorably discharged in 1996. After earning a master's degree in secondary education from Troy State University, he became gainfully employed with the Barber County school system as a high school math teacher. The majority of Fryer's professional career with Barber County was that of a teacher, principal, director, and the highest position of Barber County schools as the superintendent. He was elected and currently serves as a member of the Barber County School Board of Education. Pastor Fryer is married to Yolanda Caldwell Fryer, and their children are Jasper, Jarrell, Amaris, and Janiyah. He has been blessed to serve 5 different congregations in his pastoral career, including the Pine Hill Missionary Baptist Church here in Phoenix City, Alabama, which he presently has served since July 2000. Pastor Fryer believes that the Lord gives pastors according to his heart. It is his firm belief that the Lord has given him to Pine Hill Baptist Church for a season. This servant leader and his flock focused its mission work within the Tri-City community nearly 10 years ago with its food funneling ministry and Adopt a School program. The FF ministry collects specific items like grits, rice, canned goods, and hygiene products that are donated to community agencies that serve its most vulnerable population, its homeless and veterans. This Leaders Adopt a School program consistently provides much needed resources to the 3 neighborhood schools serving the Back Road community: Meadow Lane Elementary, Ridgecrest Elementary, and South Girard Junior High School. Throughout the year, the church and its members provide resources and financial support to the students, faculty, and administrators. In addition to the year-round activities, Pastor Fryer is an avid supporter of the NAACP local unit 50/50. This year's recipient, Reverend J.C. Fryer.
Thank you for joining us this evening. Each year, NAACP Unit 50/50 recognizes outstanding youth of Russell County. The youth recipients this year are Caitlin Jenkins and Michaela Lipscomb. Caitlin is a graduate of Central High School. She is majoring in computer science at Lawson State Community College in Birmingham, Alabama. Michaela is a graduate of Russell County High School. She is attending the University of Alabama at Birmingham. Keep up the good work and continue to strive for humanity.
So, have you really enjoyed this year's 2020 Freedom Fund Banquet? We know it's been a little different. COVID-19, the novel coronavirus, the year 2020, the new decade, the election, there have been so many new normals. And so Phoenix City, Russell County, local unit of the NAACP, 50/50 decided to be the new normal as well. We decided to bring to you an event that many in our community have grown to love, appreciate, look forward to, and help us to celebrate. To all of our awardees, we're so thankful and grateful that you're being servant leaders within the community, you're giving of yourselves, you're taking time out to help one another, and that's what it's really all about. So I want to thank our awardees. I want to thank the 120 plus members of the NAACP Unit 50/50. I want to thank our community. I want to give a huge thank you to CTV Beam for their support, their undying and unwavering affection to help us make sure we meet the needs of our community. It is important to us to be there. It is important to us to have community partners. It is important to us to be here for you. So on this new normal, this year's 2020 Freedom Fund Banquet, I am just so excited to say thank you, I love you, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it.